Thank you guys for coming again. This is Christian, or CEO for short speaking. Remember that in the video number 8, the purpose was to make the 8 switches bracket. It's just the bracket. It had 8 empty holes. In the video number 9, we were putting these switches here, put the switches on the bracket. Okay, we did. And remember, the final product we have to get is this. Is a bracket having all the switches not only placed on the bracket but also soldered like this, and to have a longer cable, because we don't know at this moment how long we're going to need it, okay, before going to place it on the PLC. So this is the final product, 8 switches nicely soldered. Now I'm going to split the soldering process in 2 steps. One step is going to be to prepare first the switches like this. Is not going to be for today, when we're going to explain why the top and the bottom of the contacts for the switches are joined together by a piece of wire, and what is about that long piece of wire in the middle. Today we just do the soldering because we need to finish the bracket anyway. So this is going to be one step, and the second one is going to be placing the wire and soldering on the bracket. So we put this one aside. We have a sample. We're going to use this one. As you can see, this is the one we've done last time. We're placing the switches on the bracket. I placed here 3 little additional brackets, exactly these ones you can buy from any Home Depot. And I left one aside because this one is going to be holding at the end the clamp, the plastic clamp with the whole cable. So it's going to be used like a notch for today to see how do we place it. So the sample I'm going to use, which is this one, is the same as that one. So now if we're turning it on this side, we're going to hold it here as a sample, and we're going to place this one in the same position right here on the little vise. So I'm going to use a famous quote from our regretted Bob Pease. He was saying that my favorite programming language is solder. So let's do programming by soldering. The thing about the switches is, if you take a look at both, these are 2 distinctive models, okay, but both of them, they contain a lot of plastic around. So guess what? If you're picking up the tip of this soldering station or the tip of that soldering station, both being absolutely the same, the size of the tip here is 1.6 millimeter. That's the best to solder small electronic components. I'm just going to prefer to use the analog one instead of the digital. They work as well both, just to show you that you don't need the latest station to do soldering. So we're going to use an older one. The tip always has to be clean. This is one thing. And another one is the metallical contacts you see all right here, they oxidize. So because of this, you have to put a bit of soldering paste, this one. You have to put a bit of soldering paste on the top of them, something like this. So very superficially, I'm just barely touching them like this. You do this on all the contacts here, and then before you're able to start doing the actual links we have on our sample, you have to prepare the switches for that. But I was saying that the switches contain a lot of plastic on them. In other words, if you put any iron tip here and you hold it for too long, chances are the plastic is going to eventually melt, so you can damage the contacts inside the switch. So take a look at the trick we're going to use to solder. We take whatever is not required out of the way, and this is not just a piece of wire. Imagine, if you can, that this being about 0.8 millimeter large is like a pipe, and in the middle of that pipe inside is a similar paste like this one, and the purpose is when the high temperature tip is going to touch anything like that, you see there is smoke coming out, and the smoke is coming out from that paste which is inside the pipe, the solder. So I'm going to put on a little fan, absorbing what is not required, like this. You can take a look. So it's coming out of my nose, see? So now, take a look what we do. The first contact here, it has to have a bit of solder. You won't hold it more than a couple seconds. But then you don't do the next one here, because I want to give time to the first contact to cool down. I'm going to go to the next switch. That's the trick. And then to the next switch. Only the first contact, you see? I'm just preparing the contact. I'm depositing some solder on it. Okay? As you know very well, the solder is a mixture, is an alloy between tin and lead, a certain proportion. And the proportion, by the way, is always written on the body. 60-40, 60% tin and 40% lead. That's a standard mixture. And this is the diameter of the pipe, 0.8 millimeter. Okay? So it has flux in the core. So in the core of that little pipe, that's a flux. Okay? So now we use it. And we continue. We just put a bit of solder on it. I finished with the top contacts. Now I go on the second row, and one at a time. You see, I'm not holding it for too long, but I'm still putting a bit of solder because I want to prepare them. It's gonna make our life much easier later on. Okay? And we're going to do the same here in the bottom. Absolutely same thing. You don't hold them there for too long, but you never heat up one switch for too long either. So now I'm coming back on the first switch. So I'm continuing where I didn't touch before, okay? Just to make sure. Now on the second one, I go on all the rows I wasn't before, and I'm doing the same. Just a bit of solder to prepare the switches for further use. So far so good. So you can see them. The most of the contacts now, they have a bit of solder, but I never hit one switch, one contact after the other. I pass one contact on a switch, another switch, another switch, another switch, and so on. Okay? So now, in the list of the things I was asking you to order was something like a tinned wire, copper wire with tin, and that was exactly why we needed it, because we needed to build this wiring around, naked wire. Always pay attention to your fingers. So now we take a look. We place it here. Now you see it stays. If it doesn't, it's because I moved it. Now it does. So what do we need? We need it to come up to here approximately. So use a little cutter. We cut it. Then we have a pair of tweezers because we need to hold it. And simply because we put some solder before, we'll do this again. I'm going to leave it here because I want the switch to have time to cool down exactly as it happened before. Now, to make sure I remove all the potential oxide from my wire, I put a bit of paste, not much, and I do the same on the next switch, right here. And now I do this with a little pair of tweezers. So I format my piece of wire, I cut it, then with my pair of tweezers. I'm just holding it. Now, if in the meantime the first switch cooled down already, I'm gonna be able to solder the next one. And then I'm gonna come here to solder the next one, like this. And then I'm soldering the next one, like that. So let's say the first one is done. I just have to take care that this one won't touch the mechanical body. Similarly, this one here, I'm holding it. I put a bit of solder. I give it time to cool down. And then, if it's not enough, I'm going to take a bit more and putting it here. So now I have two of them done. I pass to the next. So I pick up another piece of wire. So I'm going to solder right here on one of the contacts. It's gonna come up to here, so then I can cut it. So I'm gonna be able to solder a bit in the bottom. I try to solder as little as possible. Okay. So then I pass to the next one, just to give time for this one to cool down. And I'm going to do similar for the next one. So by repeating that process all over again, I want to make sure that you guys won't be wrong by doing it, because by repeating it on 8 switches, we're going to be able to make it with no mistakes. Okay? Okay, I allow it time to cool down. Now I pass back to the switch I was working before. I do 2 switches at the same time. This one, that one, this one, and this one, right here. So the wire is very flexible. So after I finish, I'm going to do this and then fold it back and pushing it. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 already done. Okay, half of the job for the first step is done. I go next. I prepare my wire. I just solder it superficially like that. Give it a bit of time, and then formatting. And then cutting it. Okay, so after it's cut, you hold it with the tweezers because the temperature is pretty high. You don't want to damage your fingers. Okay. Then, as I did before, I pass to the next. We do 2 at a time. So it's going to be similar here. Give it time to cool down. That's it. Now use the tweezers. Now we need to cut like this. Pick up the tweezers, and because there is a bit of solder already right here, it's going to be easy to have a soldering point. Okay. So now I'm going back to check the previous one if it is done or not with a bit of solder. Here I can see it needs a bit of solder, right here, and here in the top. That's it. Okay. Now this one. Just a bit of time to cool down. Now I pick up this one and I solder here, and one remaining in the top. Everything fine. Now I just push it down. I push this one down as well. Okay. Just 2 are remaining. We continue. We prepare our wire. So the pattern is always the same. We just have to apply it 2 more times. We're going to superficially solder here, just to keep the wire in place. We fold it like this. I'm going to cut it now. I'm holding it with the tweezers. Just a bit of solder. I leave it alone. I pick it up. I prepare the wire. Forgot to tell you, this is the last one I need to solder. Just a superficial dot with solder. We format it. We cut it. That length is required. We do the same here. We just touch a bit with solder. We wait. In the meantime, we pass to the previous one because it cooled down already. We had one contact here to solder and another one here. So everything was just fine. And now for the second one, for the last one, one here and one here. So practically we can say that the job for the first part is almost done. Okay, we push them back, this one and that one. To finish the first step, remember that we have to put the wire in the middle right here. Okay, so this is the next thing we're going to do. Anyway, that one is going to be easier than the one before. As you can see, we can pass from one end to the other, from here. So give it time to cool down. And now I'm going to pass directly here on the other side. So this way I'm going to have the length of the wire already set. I can cut it. So now I can finish soldering